Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing the Evil Within 2 on the GeForce GTX 1050 2GB. For FPS monitoring, I'll be using CAM. If you want to download the software, there's a link down in the description. And if you enjoy the content and want to support the channel directly, there are Humble and Amazon affiliate links down in the description as well. So the Evil Within 2, I'll be doing 1080p, 900p and 720p. To skip none of those sections of the video, check the description below. So first I'll show you 1080p using almost the maximum settings, which in this case I just lowered shadows from ultra to high and the depth of field from ultra to medium in order to maintain over the 30 frames per second. And for that the game runs just fine. And then I just lowered the settings to the minimum in the middle of the gameplay to show that I cannot get 60 frames per second no matter the resolution, at least not constantly. You'll see that the GPU usage is quite low, which doesn't make sense because the CPU is not limiting the GPU in this case. So it seems to be just a problem with the game's optimization. If the GPU usage was higher, we would be getting better frame rates, but that's not the case. The game is just not programmed for that, it seems, I don't know. So if you don't mind not being able to hit 60 frames per second constant, just purchase the game. It plays just fine over 30, even on almost ultra settings on 1080p. Then on 900p and 720p I do the same thing. I show you ultra settings with one or two things lowered, and then I lower everything to the minimum to see if we can get 60 frames per second. On 720p we get very close to that target, which means over 45-50 frames per second in very open areas, but that's using the lowest settings, so in my opinion it's not worth it. Personally, I will just play on ultra settings with depth of field on medium and shadows on high on 1080p with a 30 frames per second cap, and be done with it, play the game. It still plays fine at that frame rate. I was quite surprised about that. Even with mouse and keyboard I was able to aim just fine at 30 frames per second. Or just wait for a patch if you don't want to play at 30 frames per second. Maybe they fix it, maybe they don't. We just have to wait and see. So in the options menu, apart from resolution and all that kind of stuff, we have an FOV slider. The default FOV was quite low. The character took a big chunk of the screen, so I recommend keeping this at 90 degrees. You can also choose film grain or chromatic aberration on rough. And like on Doom, we have the performance metric option, which in this case only gives you frame times and frame rates, which is nice. And then in the advanced options, we have the level of detail option, which is enabled or disabled. In this case, enabling it means that it will limit the level of detail, so you have less detail on distant objects to get better performance. So if it's disabled, it means that it's more demanding. Then we have object motion blur, camera motion blur, which I don't usually like motion blur, but in this game it's very well done. It doesn't bother you when you're aiming or anything like that. It just looks fluid, but it's a hit to the frame rate, so I recommend disabling this if you're having trouble with performance. Then we have depth of field quality, the DOF, which you can turn it off, low, medium, high or ultra. I recommend lowering it to medium. I had a big hit in performance, at least on my end, when I'm aiming down sights. Other than that, it's fine. Then we have screen space ambient occlusion and SSR. SSR is screen space reflections. Both of those options are also a big hit to the frame rate, so I recommend playing with those settings and see how it goes. Then we also have volumetric lighting, which are the God rays, pretty much. You can call them that way. On anti-aliasing we have disabled, FXAA, TAA, or a mix of FXAA and TAA. I noticed a small hit in performance using this setting, so no problems there. And shadow quality, we have low, medium, high or ultra. And again, I recommend lowering this if you're having trouble with performance. Pretty much all the options here have a noticeable impact in performance, so I recommend just adjusting the overall quality. For example, you want to lower the settings instead of changing individual stuff. Go into the overall quality and try low, medium, high or ultra. And if you want to tweak it a little bit, just play with the depth of field, SSR and motion blur. With those I usually get the frame rate bump I need, but overall this game is not running that good. On all my cards I wasn't able to get 60 frames per second constant, even using the GTX 1060. The game just loves to drop below 60 frames per second, it's not fully utilizing the GPU. For some reason it's around 50 to 80%, it doesn't go any higher, and there's no reason to do so. If I lower the resolution it still does, it's not a CPU thing. I tried better CPUs and this still happened. So it seems to be just a problem with the game. Let's hope that this is fixed with a patch. And we're missing a texture quality option, which I don't understand why. Maybe it's hidden somewhere, but I didn't find it. But if you have a 2GB VRAM card, you get over the 2GB limit. So we will start using RAM and page file to fill in the gaps, so keep that in mind. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.